It is 1:01. Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Jackson Williams. In NFL news, it is being reported the Patriots wide receiver Jalen Polk will miss the entire 2025 season due to a shoulder injury that will require surgery. The 2024 second-round pick caught 12 passes on 33 targets for 87 yards and 2 touchdowns in his rookie season. A couple of trades in the NFL last night as the Kansas City Chiefs traded wide receiver Sky Moore to the San Francisco 49ers in exchange for a pick swap of day 3 picks in the 2027 NFL Draft. Moore, a second-round pick by the Chiefs. In 2022, he caught 43 passes for 494 yards and a touchdown in his first 2 seasons before missing all but 6 games last season and not registering a stat with a core muscle injury in 2024. Another wide receiver trade as the Broncos send wide receiver Devon Vele to the New Orleans Saints in exchange for a 2026 fourth and a 2027 7th-round selection. Vele caught 41 passes for 475 yards and 3 touchdowns after being selected in the 7th round of the 2024 NFL Draft. For your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045 is the number. We'll be joined by Justin Mello of the Draft Network and Music City Audible podcast at 1:20. We'll talk of some Tennessee Titans observations from America's Hat, where he is from, Canada. He's a Canadian, so we'll talk about what he has seen in the games, what he's hearing about maybe some roster moves or potential players that may get cut. We'll talk about all that at 1:20 today. Something that we didn't touch on about this L'Jarius Sneed stuff that we've gotten more information over the last, 24 hours is the criminal charges that are going on in Texas. Now, PK over at PK.com has said that the criminal case has now been sent to the grand jury for a September 25th hearing, but for a reduced Class A misdemeanor charge of failure to report. In Texas, it's a crime to fail to report a felony if you witnessed it under circumstances where a reasonable person would believe serious bodily injury or death may have resulted. A grand jury could indict him for that. Then if he's found guilty of that formal charge, he could be sentenced to up to a year in county jail and a fine of up to $4,000 or both. So, you either got a fine up to $4,000, you got maybe jail time up to a year. This kind of drop in misdemeanor charges, and then we know that the civil case got sent to arbitration or a mediator by the order of the judge, and of course is for initially he faced a felony charge for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon for December 6, 2024 shooting in Carrollton, Texas. Of course, since then it's come to find out the guy that was in the car with him was the one who allegedly had perpetrated that event. All this to say, are we kind of overlooking that the NFL and the personal conduct policy may issue some kind of suspension this year or next year, however this may shake out? Because we know we're kind of fearful that he's going to miss games because of injury, but now should we be fearful that maybe there's a suspension on the horizon?
What do you think?
I kind of feel like it may lean that way. I mean, obviously, even if you're not found guilty, the NFL conducts its own investigation, and we don't know what they have found or uncovered and what technically constitutes a violation of the personal conduct policy. But there could be, I think there's a good chance there may be a suspension on the way for him. Now, I don't know when that will happen. I don't think it's a season-long suspension or anything, but maybe like a 1-game to 3-game kind of suspension could be on the horizon. But, the NFL sometimes drags its feet.
Well, first and foremost, I don't think the league should do anything until everything is resolved.
And that's typically what they do.
Yeah, but they didn't used to be that way.
Oh, okay.
They did not. With Goodell, by the way. So then they started doing that. I don't think anything's going to happen. I don't think he's going to get suspended. I think he's probably going to get a fine. It's just a guess. I don't know nothing about the law, especially in Texas. So just through the lawyers I've talked to, they think he's going to just get a fine.
And maybe not even that.
You're right. But, they're not there either, just giving them base principles of what was, communicated via the case. So, I don't, even if he does get suspended for a game, I mean, he's missed all these games. What's a game? So,
yeah. Because we know Rashee Rice has got.
I know you were really concerned about that. I think you thought he was going to get suspended, and I'll
lean a little opposite you. Is that I do think
you said that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is going to be a 1 to 3 year game suspension. If I had to bet money, I would think there is.
That's what I'm talking about. This is just
hypothetically.
Yeah, you still. How about this? We'll bet the dinner that you still have.
I still got to get you that dinner.
Right. So now we'll put it back, and then we'll be even. If I
there you
lose.
go.
Jackson, you owe me dinner too.
Yeah. Well, there you go. But I do think that I don't know what's going to come of the criminal case itself. I do lean with you on this.
No idea.
Yeah, I do lean with you on this. It's probably going to be nothing more than a slap on the wrist from them. But I don't know, because the NFL's kind of weird about this stuff sometimes, and even if you may be found innocent or the charges aren't that great in, I guess the punishment of a fine of $4,000 dropping the hat to L'Jarius Sneed, the NFL sometimes still suspends you. So I really...
Give me an example.
Well, Deshaun Watson was never found guilty and he got suspended.
Oh, that's a whole different thing now. So there was multiple occasions. So now you're just putting Sneed's case and say he did this multiple times. That then was somewhat comparable.
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying nothing was ever came of it.
Well, no, it did, but I mean, this is...
Even though I do think there was something there.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how nothing came of it, but...
I just think that's a total different ballgame when we're talking about that case. What I'm talking about is someone having their first offense here in somewhat of this category, and we're now talking about suspending them. That's why I was talking about give me a case. Deshaun Watson's case, I don't think there's a case like that in the league. So that wouldn't be one I would refer to.
What was
there's been some guys somewhat similar.
Zeke Elliott, what was that outcome in court?
I don't. What was the whole deal on that? I don't remember.
Oh man, gosh, that's so long ago.
I just all along I thought that he was gonna actually get out of it in some form or fashion.
His was Zeke Elliott's was 6 games for domestic violence allegations. Mm-hmm. I can't recall
what he guesses
if he got. He was accused. I can't recall if the court clears way. A federal court has lifted an injunction. Oh, that's the block. I don't know if he ever got found guilty in court. Ezekiel Elliott.
Right, because to me, the NFL should let the court system take place, and then that's kind of, whatever comes about there, then you give your suspension. I think that's how they work now. They did not do that in the first tenure of Goodell there in his first go-round there early on when he was the commissioner.
So despite being suspended, this is from USA Today, despite being suspended, Elliott was never arrested or charged with any crime. So even if there's a fine, technically, I guess that would be the charge and he would be found guilty. So, I mean...
That was also multiple allegations.
Gotcha. But he wasn't found... I mean, was it multiple? Because it was just for an ex-girlfriend.
It says 6 counts. I don't know.
Oh, okay. I mean, maybe it's just going to be one game. I don't know.
I'm going to bet that he won't get suspended.
Gotcha.
I'm going to do that.
Okay.
He may, one game. I just trying to remember, like, a guy getting suspended for one game typically is 3 games. Very rare do you see a 1-game suspension. Even when I think somebody just got suspended for substance, or, taking illegal, let's say steroids or whatever it was. I don't know they never say that. So, so they usually get suspended for 3 games. So typically it's a 3-game window usually. I don't know about 1 game.
And I guess the Rashee Rice thing is that like the suspension may not come down until after the first 4 weeks of the Kansas City Chiefs season, because apparently the NFL wanted 8 games, and this is just an entirely different situation. But I'm just trying to figure out what the NFL. I don't feel like there's a lot of rhyme or reason to the NFL, and I think that's why I'm kind of allowing for that suspension to happen.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he should get suspended or anything,
Right. Neither one
but
of
I'm
us
just
are.
like the NFL. I just have to leave open that possibility that I don't know. Maybe they'll suspend it because there's not a lot of rhyme or reason, even in the suspensions that have been found either guilty or this or that. You just get kind of suspended, whatever it feels like.
Yeah, that's why I said I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna side of nothing. Yeah, because you just don't know. I mean,
Yeah, because there's the civil case that hasn't been settled yet, and then there's, of course, the criminal case that the September 25th is going to be. Because those two things are still open for L'Jarius Sneed. Now, if you ask L'Jarius Sneed, doesn't feel like there's going to be much of an issue. And I kind of probably, again, from the Texas side of things, I do think that it's going to be kind of what you say, probably a slap on the wrist. But I don't know what that
because
means
the
to the
other
NFL.
guy, actually, the only thing he's getting really convicted of when you read that is that he didn't tell someone and he saw the guy commit the crime.
Oh, he's right. Allegedly right there, I guess.
In Texas.
Yeah.
So that's his only wrong. So, I mean, typically whatever happens with someone with their first offense of that's what I'm basing it off
Probably,
of.
I would say this too.
Because if it was in some other states, I don't know what Tennessee law is. If you did that here in Tennessee, I don't think anything would happen.
I think there is a law here, but I'm not going to go on the record and say that.
Somebody
But
can call and correct
I do
us,
want to
but-
say this. Also, I don't think there was any injuries and obviously no deaths. So maybe that also plays into what the grand jury says too, right? Like, I mean, maybe that's what they say. I don't know, but we'll see. We'll see. When we come back, we'll be joined by Justin Mello of the Draft Network and also of the Music City Audible podcast. We'll talk Tennessee Titans with him. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045 is the number. And we're going to go to the phones up to America's Hat in Canada, where Justin Mello of the Draft Network and Music City Audible podcast hails from. And Justin, you've seen the 2 preseason games. You've seen practice clips. You've read the reports of what's going on. What has been your biggest takeaway for the first 2 preseason games with Cam Ward?
Well, I think it's got to be how ahead of the curve he is, right? And look, they had high expectations for him coming into camp, but his command of the offense, his ability to throw the football with anticipation. You've seen some stuff on tape where he's navigating the pocket, extending it, buying himself time. That first completion, to Alec Iomanner, his first drop back in week 2 of the preseason, there was that very subtle movement, to his right. You had James Pierce, who looked like was going to win inside. Credit J.C. Latham. He kind of recovered well on that rep. But Cam Ward feels it, extends it, hits the big play, 35 yards. They've just been really impressed with his ability to handle everything they've put on his plate. Nick Holtz, offensive coordinator, spoke a little about that prior to Wednesday's practice. Everything they've thrown at him, he's met every challenge. I mean, you could go back a month ago. I think of the story that Brian Callahan told when he was kind of giving him the play call and he was still talking trash with Jeffrey Simmons, and he's sort of, pulling double duty, if you will. He's getting the play call, he's spitting it out, regurgitating it, getting the guys ready while talking trash to Jeffrey Simmons. So for me, it's just how pro-ready he's looked. They got a lot of confidence in him heading into week 1.
Where do you think are some areas that maybe he needs to improve on, or maybe areas that we need to maybe pay attention to as he grows into a starting quarterback in this league?
Well, dating back to Miami, even before that, but certainly this past season at Miami, one of the issues that you've seen be a little bit recurring throughout training camp at practice has been the decision-making, right? Some of the interceptions that he's thrown. And again, training camp, it's practice. You're trying to learn what you could get away with. But some of those interceptions he's thrown are ones you're not going to be able to get away with, right? There was a couple that were right in the belly of Cody Barton. There was one thrown at Xavier Woods, the safety. So for me, it's kind of getting that decision-making down. I mean, we saw it in one of the preseason games where he tries to get that ball out of bounds, and it barely gets there. And then lo and behold, I believe it was the joint practice with the Falcons where he does something similar, and a Falcon safety actually comes down with the interception inbound. So it's the little things. If you're throwing it away, throw it away. You make sure you launch that thing out of bounds. And then when it comes to some of the, what you can get away with and what you can't, this game is fast. There's no such thing as a slow NFL defender. Those windows close a lot quickly, and I think college quarterbacks, once they make the acclimation, they're always surprised by how much faster the windows close. So for me, it's the decision-making's got to improve a little. You want to avoid some of those boneheaded turnovers.
The offensive line has obviously given Cam Ward a pretty good pocket in the preseason against, mostly, if not all, second-string defenders across the way. What do you think are some things that when you've watched these first 2 games are some things that you can actually extrapolate from the preseason into the regular season?
Well, it's just how much cleaner the pocket is, right? Like if you're a Titans fan, it's almost a foreign image, right? Like what it's been like these last couple of years, how really terrible the offensive line has been. You watch these first 2 preseason games, and yes, it's exhibition, haven't been a whole lot of starters out there on the other side of the ball defensively for the opposition, but those have been clean pockets. I mean, Cam Ward has not been sacked through 2 games. He's barely been pressured, right? There was like that first drop back in the exhibition opener where he escaped a clean pocket. That wasn't a pressure. Then if you want to count that one against the Falcons where, J.C. Latham actually recovered well, he really hasn't been any under duress. Now, I said from the beginning, the first week, the Denver Broncos, this is a team that had 9 more sacks minimum than any other team in the NFL last season. And the amount of continuity they have up front blows me away. 63 sacks. You know how many sacks a guy had on Denver who's no longer in Denver? 2. That's the most sacks a guy had last year who's no longer there. So they've kept the band together. The defensive coordinator, Vance Joseph, is still there. There may not be a bigger test for this new-look offensive line than the Denver Broncos in week one. But I think the Titans have to be incredibly encouraged by what they've seen so far. And quite frankly, it shouldn't quite come as a surprise, right? Like, we should all expect it to be pretty good. We know Dan Moore is a huge upgrade on what they've had at left tackle these last couple of years. I mean, J.C. Latham now moving over to the right side was good last year, maybe not great. Right side will fit him better. And we know Kevin Zeitler is a huge upgrade on a Dylan Radin. So they finally got this line moving in the right direction. It's been a 2 to 3 year rebuild, but they should have high expectations going into week one.
We're on the phone with Justin Mello of the Draft Network and also of Music City Audible, Tennessee Titans podcast.
Well, Justin, thanks for coming on, man. Naturally, we had a deep discussion, and we really don't know the answer is. And I'm going to ask you this question, and that is, what does Callahan, head coach Callahan, that is, need to do to demonstrate to the brass, the GM, the owners in this 2025 season to secure his job for 2026?
Well, I think last year things maybe came at him a little bit too quickly, right? Not only is he a first-time head coach, he's calling plays for the first time, right? Remember, he didn't do that in Cincinnati. And now you're doing that for the first time. And now you've got all the delegations, if you will, of a head coach. And by the way, he's got a first-time offensive coordinator, a first-time defensive coordinator, and a first-time special teams coordinator last year as well. So not a recipe for success, if you will, in the National Football League. I think going into this year, you would assume he has learned a lot of valuable lessons. It was certainly a learning experience for him last year. Now, by all accounts, it sounds like the leash for him is quite long. I think they've got to win a couple of more football games, and that should not be too much to ask, right? Like, it's actually, Blaine, you could attest to this, it's actually hard to win 3 football games in the National Football League. Like, a lot has got to go wrong for you in a year for you to only come away with 3 wins. If that number, ideally that number is 6+. I think if it's 3 or 4, that's still very disappointing. If it's 5, I think you're right on the edge of, it's a little better. I wish it was slightly improved compared to last year. But for me, he's just got to show that he's better prepared for the challenge. And part of that is delegating. Part of that is handling the challenge better. The team's got to be more disciplined. They've got to look more prepared. There were a lot of games. Remember the Washington game? They were down 28-0 before they could even blink. There were some games where, A, they didn't look prepared from the get-go, or B, they started close first quarter and a half. I think of the Lions game. I think of the Bills game. They were in those games early, but they end up losing by 25, 30 points. So for me, it's making sure these guys are prepared, making better second-half adjustments, fielding a disciplined team, understanding the challenges that come with being a head coach in the National Football League. If he shows that he can navigate all of those things well, and let's not forget Cam Ward. That's obviously the most important, right, is that he's got to show he was hired to be an offensive guru, a quarterback guru, brought him in to work with Will Levis. That obviously didn't work out. He has to show that he's got Cam Ward on an upward trajectory, that the young rookie quarterback is protected and is improving. And if he can accomplish all that, he should certainly be back for a third year in 2026.
I'm with Justin Mello. And Justin, you wrote numerous articles about the wide receivers and, the draft guys, as let alone the guys that they brought in free agency. And you talked a lot about the X position. So what do you think about Alec Manor and Van Jefferson? Is there a battle, or do you see the young draft pick taking over, or the wily vet still hanging on to the job?
Well, when week one starts, that first snap, I would be a little surprised if it's not Van Jefferson out there. I know everyone was ready to jump down his throat for that drop in the second preseason game, but Brian Callahan came out, defended him, talked about that's not the Van Jefferson we have seen this summer. By all accounts, they like him. And look, control what you can control. He responded with a good practice, right, the other day. So he's been working the jugs machine after practice. He's putting in the time. With Alec Manor, there's still some growing pains, right? Like, there have been a couple throws in the preseason. One of them, I thought he could have done a better job locating. He had a drop at yesterday's practice that, apparently hit him right in the hands he couldn't come down with. There have been some instances where I think he could attack the ball a little better in the air, play to that. He's got a big frame, right? Like 6'2", 210, 215. I think he could use that to his advantage a bit more than we've seen so far. there are reps where he's playing like a rookie, right? A skittish one almost at times. So I'd like to see him use that frame, attack the ball with confidence, be aggressive, be the X receiver that they believe he can be. Now, I think the light bulb is going to continue coming on for him here as we progress. I mean, we've still got a couple of weeks out from the first game. And as a first-year pass catcher, he's going to show growth as it goes on, right? Like, I expect he'll get a lot of reps or the majority of reps with Cam Ward in Friday night's preseason finale. But still a whiles away. He's got to, improve some of those technical aspects, become more comfortable with his body and using it in the right situations. I think Van Jefferson still starts the year out at X, but he should definitely be looking over his shoulder.
Now, you've analyzed the Titans draft class in 2025, and I think you've liked what they've done under Bergonzi, at least as of right now. But looking back on that now, seeing the players, what grade do you give them now?
I mean, I still think I'd give them a B to B+, right? I mean, Cam Ward has been as advertised, right? He's met every expectation, every challenge they've put at his feet. Certainly, they were so excited about a guy like Kevin Winston Jr. in the third round before they started kind of managing that knee and hamstring a little bit. The rookie pass catchers have made plays in spurts. I think they believe they've got a foundation there to build off with Simere DK and Alec Iomanner. And how about the tight end? I mean, Gunnar Helm, that highlight reel touchdown in the Falcons game, and he's consistently showed up at practice. You've got second-round edge Femi Oladejo, who I think we all knew going to come along a little bit slowly. Again, he's only been playing edge for about not even a year yet, right? Exact to the day, because he made that switch from off-ball linebacker roughly midway through last season at UCLA. And they think they've got a bit of a gem on their hands in Marcus Harris. I'm told they like that late-round corner quite a bit, and he has shown up, again, in spurts at practice. So for me, the early returns on this draft class are very positive. Now, we all know how we look back on it 2-3 years from now, that's going to be dictated by what Cam Ward turns into, right? When you take a quarterback at number 1 overall, that's going to determine, for the most part, how that draft class is reflected on. But I would say the early returns right now are incredibly positive.
I guess lastly, it's kind of a two-part question, but it's a fun question. Under the radar player who may make the team and then a surprise cut.
Yeah, I think one of those guys, that's maybe being written off a little bit is Julius Wood, the safety. From what I'm hearing, they like Julius Wood quite a bit. I believe they claimed him off waivers last year, towards the end of the year when he was cut by the Cowboys. He came in, he played some snaps on defense, played a lot of special teams for them. I had a conversation the other day with someone close to that situation that said, if they let him go, there's a good chance he gets claimed elsewhere. So I think that's something they're going to have to take into consideration when they submit their initial 53. Now, we expect a lot of roster movement by them following the initial 53, right? Because they're number 1 on the waiver priority. And remember, you stay there regardless of how many claims you make. If they claim 6 players, they'll get all 6. I wouldn't be shocked if Julius Wood is on that initial 53. Does he survive cuts afterwards? I mean, TBD. We have to see what becomes available. In terms of a surprise cut, I don't know if anything's going to shock us at this point, but, Josh Wiley, the tight end, was a draft pick a couple of years ago. Jalen Duncan was a draft pick a couple of years ago. Both of them are firmly on the bubble. If you're a Titans fan who still thinks Xavier Restrepo is going to make it, I mean, I don't love those chances based on how late he's gotten into the lineup, and he hasn't played till the second half, at least on offense, of both preseason games. So, for me, those guys come to mind. Certainly the recent draft picks of the previous regime, Wiley, Duncan, they could be getting ready to move on. I like the depth they have on that offensive line. A lot of people expect them to make a claim. I don't know that they will on the offensive line. They've used Ali Udo a lot. John Ojukwu is someone who's got a skill set they value. They've got, I would go as far as to say, great interior depth with like a Corey Levin and a Jackson Slater, maybe a Blake Hance if he makes it, but for me, a couple of those recent draft picks are might be on the outside looking in.
Justin, going back to Femi, I mean, how did you have him graded on your big board? Because I know you do a big board and you do a bunch of interviews and all that kind of stuff. You're big into over at the Draft Network. And how do you feel like his progression is about what you expected, or is he still a little bit behind than even what you had going in as an expectation of a project pass rusher?
So I had a bunch of fantastic conversations with Femi throughout the pre-draft process. We highlighted him a couple of times over at the Draft Network, once at the Senior Bowl and then again, I believe, after the Combine. So he's exactly where I expect him to be. In all honesty, I just thought we knew it was a bit of a project. I mean, he gave an interview, I believe it was with TennesseeTitans.com, or they put out a spotlight where he had said, I only really started getting comfortable playing edge at the Senior Bowl. I mean, that's after he's done playing college football, and it's all the way like in late January, right? So
does that sound like a good use of a second-round pick, though?
You know, I think, Zach, I'll be honest with you, we had this conversation, I think, throughout the pre-draft process. Like, everything that I was hearing about him, and I was hearing from teams, and I was hearing from, quite frankly, some of the people that represent them, I wasn't shocked when he went where he did, because, first of all, I think I actually had broken news on his pre-draft 30 visits. He had, like, I think it was 10 to 12 of them. Like, a bunch of teams brought him in. Teams will always gamble on that raw athleticism. For me, where I will, somewhat agree with you, and I'll say where I thought the fit with the Titans was somewhat questionable, is that edge room we all knew was in a position, unfortunately, where whoever they drafted was going to have to be an immediate contributor, right? We're talking about cutting Harold Landry, replacing him with a guy who got cut for underperforming on his last team in Draymond Jones. And then you go out and you draft a really raw pass rusher who's still acclimating. To me, that was the risk. It was, if we had the Philadelphia Eagles edge room, heck, if we even had the Seattle Seahawks edge room, one of those rooms I really like, or the Denver Broncos, the week one opponent, we're going to bring this guy along a bit slower. That's, when you start attaching expectations to it, and you attach expectations to it by asking him to play a lot, right? Because the more of the spotlight you put a guy in, the more you're opening him up to criticism, right? By the fans, by the media. That was the one thing that was a bit questionable to me regarding the team and prospect fit. Now, they would counter with that. We loved his personality. You've heard them say that. We thought he was a Tennessee Titan based on the work ethic and the leadership that he's already displayed. Was I surprised he went in the second round? I was not. Truly, I was not. I thought, based on the visits that he had, based on the raw athleticism, I absolutely thought that he was going to go in the second round. The question for me was, they're going to need him to play a lot right away. Is that the best case scenario for him? TBD.
The Tennessee Titans ranked last in a lot of pressure rate, sack rate stats, and we're talking about the pass rush. I mean, do you think that this Tennessee Titans defense has enough juice to generate a pass rush better than last year, or are we looking at maybe more of the same?
I'm generally concerned, to be honest with you, regarding that, because I've heard the message, throughout the offseason. First of all, I wrote an article at one point. I love the wordplay. I pat myself on the back. It's silly, but they're bigger at edge, but are they better? Right? Like, you've heard this message. They wanted to get bigger. Draymond Jones, big guy, 265-ish, 270. Femi Oladejo, a bigger guy than Harold Landry is, right? They had brought in Lorenzo Carter. He was a bigger guy, early down run setter. He retired abruptly. They replaced him with another big guy, Jihad Ward, who, and by all accounts, is a great, or a good early down run stopper. They wanted to get bigger. They achieved that mission. Did they get better? I'm not convinced that they did. You've heard stuff at practice, from the coaches, coordinated rush plans, be disciplined in your lane. I mean, we saw an example, I believe it was Teron Davenport had a great tweet of the all-22 angle, where Femi Oladejo on the Cedric Gray sack in the Falcons game, he sort of, kind of creates that pressure off the edge. It's by design, gets the quarterback to move up in the pocket. Well, what happens? You've got a blitzing linebacker right down the middle who cleans it up. Like, that's what I envision when they talk about coordinated rush plans. I love all that stuff. I love getting bigger, yada, yada. At some point, though, in the National Football League, you've just got to be able to win. Right? You've got to be able to win one-on-one. Like, that's what it comes to. Myles Garrett, it's an extreme example, but he's not great because the Cleveland Browns have a coordinated rush plan. Myles Garrett is great because he lines up opposite a guy and beats him every single down. Right? Like, at the National Football League, you've got to win. Do they have enough on the edge to win one-on-one with consistently? I don't believe they do. I love what they have up the middle. Of course, I think Jeffrey Simmons is in for a huge bounce-back season. Excited to see the kind of steps that T'Vondre Sweat takes as a sophomore. I was glad they brought back Sebastian Joseph Day. That gives you a lot of encouragement up the middle. But the other side of that coin is they had all those guys last year up the middle, right? And they still finished third from the bottom, tied for third from the bottom in sacks. So for me, I don't think they've got enough talent up front, specifically at the edge spot, to improve to the point that they want to when it comes to getting the collapsing the pocket and improving on last year's sack numbers.
Well, lastly, Mello, before you go, how much playing time are you playing the starters, and what goes into that decision? Because you talked about playing time for the young guys, and they're going to be playing a lot in this game. But, if you're the coach, how much you want to play your young starters in this game?
Well, I think the plan in this preseason finale tomorrow night against the Vikings is going to be pretty similar to what we've seen. Probably 2 series for the starters. I mean, look, this is a 3-win football team last year. I get it. They need to be out there. They need reps. They're trying to get that ugly taste out of their mouth. The messaging all off season, we're better than that. We don't want to be that again. I get playing them a little bit. Now, you're not going to go insane here and play them more than 2 or 3 series. I think we'll see Cam Ward for 2 offensive possessions. There are also going to be a lot of guys that don't play in this game, right? Calvin Ridley's probably not going to play. I'd be surprised if Jeffrey Simmons plays. Yes, he's lobbying to play, apparently. We'll see which decision they come to. But, T'Vondre Sweat, Kevin Winston Jr., maybe J.C. Latham, who's been dealing with some hip tightness off the last couple of sessions. Like, a lot of guys, Tyler Lockett, Kevin Zeitler, like, these guys probably don't need to play. But you're going to see, I think, Xavier Woods and Roger McCreary. You're going to see all the edge rushers, I think. Arden Key, Draymond Jones, Femi Oladejo. You're going to see a James Lynch, certainly. You're going to see Cody Barton, James Williams, and Cedric Gray. I think more on the defensive side of the ball, where they clearly have some warts and depth issues. I think you're going to see a lot of those guys, at least the healthy ones. On offense, I think you'll see Cam Ward for a couple possessions. It should be the first unit offensive line with them. Now, again, TBD on a Kevin Zeitler who hasn't played yet, and J.C. Latham might sit this one out too based on what he's been dealing with, but you're not putting Cam Ward back there behind the second unit O-line. So maybe Tony Pollard gets a couple carries. We did see him during the first game. We didn't see him in the second. I think you'll see a lot of the rookie receivers. Van Jefferson will obviously play. So for me, I think a lot of these guys probably get 2 possessions, and then they'll want to get out of there as healthy as they can and start focusing on the Denver Broncos.
Tennessee Titans have the number 1 waiver wire priority, as you already explained. The roster cut downs and the cuts, the initial 53 has to be in by Tuesday. On Wednesday, claims will get processed. Over or under 5.5 waiver claims for this Tennessee Titans team?
Ooh, you know what? I'm going to go under. I think, 7 is probably the max, but that would still surprise me. That's a lot of new faces you're bringing into your locker room. They made 2 claims last year. Of course, they didn't have number 1 priority, but they had, I think, 6th or 7th priority last year. So they're at number 1 this year. For me, where my expectation is, it's 4 or 5. 6 or 7 is within the realm of possibility, but would still surprise me. Anything more than 7 would be totally stunning, in my opinion. My number, because you went 5.5, I'll go slightly under. I think the actual number will be 4 or 5.
Real quick plug, tell everybody what Titans of the South is and where they could buy it.
Yeah, Titans of the South, the book that I released last year, Blaine knows it very well. He's in it. He's autographed a copy for a lucky person who won it, but we've got a 2025 updated version available exclusively on the website. That's titansofthesouth.com. What the updated version includes is a bonus chapter that highlights the process of drafting Cam Ward this past offseason, and it also comes with a free player illustrated trading card. Every purchase comes with that free player illustrated trading card. I'm under embargo. I can't say who, but I'll put it this way. It's the player that every Titans fan would choose right now. Right? New starting quarterback is the player illustrated trading card that comes free with every purchase. We're cutting this off August 31st. That is your last day to get the bonuses. So to get the extra chapter and then to get the player trading card. After that, the regular version of the book will be available. It'll be available forever, right? It's through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, where all books are sold. But if you want to get the new version, you got to head to titansofthesouth.com and order it before August 31st.
There you go. That's Justin Mello with the latest on his views of the Tennessee Titans. You can listen to him on the Music City Audible podcast, wherever you get your podcast, and they're also on YouTube as well. And, of course, you can read all of his player interviews, including with Femi Oladejo and many of the other Tennessee Titans draft picks over at the Draft Network. Justin, we appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me on, fellas.
All right, no problem. When we come back, we'll talk more about the Tennessee Titans. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone.
Did you know Eurofix has a very different business philosophy? They staff all their locations with more staff than the average auto repair shop, just so they can be ready when an emergency pops up out of nowhere. Hey, it's Blaine Bishop. Have you ever noticed how hard it is to get a right now appointment for a vehicle repair? Some dealers can be more than 2 weeks out just to get an appointment, but not Eurofix. Eurofix has been offering quality repairs that beat the dealer without the dealer pricing since 1999. Plus a 3-year nationwide warranty on work performed with the staff to fix your car right now. So if you're tired of waiting forever to get your car into the shop, then call Eurofix. Owner Aaron Stokes says we will never be too busy for our customers. We're here to take their pain away, and we mean right now. And Eurofix repairs all European cars, family owned for over a quarter century. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX, or you can visit them online at myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com. But always tell them Blaine said ya.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Door. 615-737-1045 is the number. We just got done talking with Justin Mello, author of the Titans of the South book, draftnetwork.com, Music City Audible as well. And I asked him a question about Cam Ward and what he really has to improve on. And a big conversation in yesterday's press conferences with Nick Holtz and Cam Ward himself, Blaine, that we didn't get to yesterday, but I kind of want to get to today, is about Cam's footwork. And we'll have to hear from Nick Holtz and Cam Ward about what they assess of his footwork. And I guess let's start with Nick Holtz first, because he was asked about Cam's footwork and finding consistency and how it ties into the placement of the ball and all that kind of stuff. And here's what Nick Holtz had to say.
Yeah, you're always looking for consistency in your footwork. You know, as an old West Coast, you ever listen to Bill Walsh or any of those guys, it's always kind of the feet tell the story of how the quarterback is playing. And so, you know, there's two parts of that. He's gotten away with it a little bit in his career, especially in his college career. Some of those kind of where his feet are kind of off kilter and he can still make those throws. And in the NFL, those are kind of normally picks or tips and overthrows and things like that. So you can really tell with his feet where it goes, and really it's just continuing to build the muscle memory. So, you know, every day out here in the drills, we're just doing, after kind of they get warmed up, we're doing so much progression and timing work where it's first hitch here, second hitch here, third hitch here, so it keeps them on time and then keeps the ball really in balance.
When they're off kilter, are they generally the same, off kilter the same way, and what is that?
They kind of, he's somewhat falling away from it, so really it's not stepping into the throw, so really you see that front foot's not really driving, or his hips aren't really driving towards the ball or towards the target, so you can see him kind of rotate sometimes. And that's really where, that's with all quarterbacks, kind of if you're really not working towards your target, that a lot of times you get those missed throws.
We've talked a little bit about teaching a quarterback or coaching up a quarterback, you know, in these kinds of ways, as far as about the lower body or this or that, because we've harkened back to your opinion and everything, but we've also heard from his quarterback coach, right? Like I cannot remember the guy's name, but he was on Ramon and Will or 3HL at one point, but he talked about how, hey, I thought I was going to have to correct all this footwork, but hey, it actually works and I don't want to correct it. It doesn't sound like they're in danger of maybe infiltrating his head too much and making him overthink, but that is a kind of a danger when you're talking about some of the stuff that they're trying to correct or teach, correct, in your mind?
Well, first and foremost, I never said anything about correcting anything about his throwing motion or his footwork. I've never.
Well, you said that you don't want to overcorrect it.
Right. That's not saying I was saying correct it.
Yeah, I didn't say you said that.
Yeah, so I know you said other people have been saying that. I'd never. I'm just saying what I said.
I know. I was using the other quarterback coach that also said what you said.
Yeah, I'm not a quarterback guru, so I don't. You know, all I know is your arm. Your legs are an extension of your arm. However you get it there, you're going to be fading away. So I like quarterbacks actually can throw different ways and don't have to put everything on it. So there's going to be times and moments you're going to have to do that. So that's kind of my whole thing. As far as mechanically, all that, you know, hey, man, I'm all about it if you just get it done. So, you know, hey, these quarterback gurus are a lot smarter than me about the quarterback. So I have no idea, you know, as far as that. So I don't like, what I don't like is what I was talking about is I don't like coaches who overanalyze and then try to coach you out of something. Here's what I'm going to say. Just imagine, this is what really happens to an athlete. Imagine you're left-handed and then they say go right-handed. That's what you're doing to an athlete. It's that hard. And you have to mechanically, now just think about it. I'm left-handed. Now change right-handed. Now I can do it, but then is it good? Is it visible? So I have to continue to work at it over and over again. We're talking about it can't be just something that's going to happen like overnight. That's why I talked about J.C. Latham moving from right to left. It's not as easy as it just sounds. It's like being a switch hitter. It's like, it's not that easy. If not, everybody would be doing it. So I think, you know, when you're trying to make, you know, changes, naturally, as you progress, sometimes you do have to make changes. It's not something that's just going to happen. He's just going to have to progress and continue to just fight at it. I heard him talk about how he used to have a wider base, and he slowly, over a couple of years, has, you know, narrowed it down. And it took him time, you know. So, you know, it's rep after rep after rep. So that's kind of really any position, but man, it more vital at the quarterback position.
Right. I bring it up to your point of, you know, you don't one. I use the term "get in your head," but like you say, you're having a guy that's trying to learn. That's right-handed trying to learn left-handed, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm just wondering if these comments maybe speak to any concern level or anything from you, or you just kind of like, this sounds a little
Are
normal.
you concerned about it?
I don't know quite yet because
I'm not.
it
Based
doesn't
on what I
seem
said,
like
I
it
haven't-
doesn't seem.
Because see, to me, you're overanalyzing and overcoaching. That's what you're doing. See, that's what the non-athlete guys going to do. Not saying that about you, but that's what they end up doing. And some of these coaches sit down and start saying,
Right.
you watch the film and go, you should be this way. Every player has its own unique way about how they play their position, especially when
Right.
you get to this level. And so when you're trying to make them mechanically, just like a guy you had that was 5 years ago that was really good, and you're trying to make them all the same, you can't. You can't. What you do is you teach them techniques and you say, hey, you work within this, what you like and makes you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
That is coaching.
Because it doesn't seem like he's in his head during these preseason games.
I just think he's mentally
Yeah.
tougher and stronger, and I don't think anything kind of bothers him, to an extent. I think
Yeah.
he's going to work on it, but I think he's
At
just
the end
going
of
to
the
work.
day.
Yeah, he's just going to try to make sure he gets it done.
Because what he's done and what his preparation, everything has worked. And I mean, at least at the college level, we
Right.
have yet to see at the NFL level, but it doesn't seem like he's going to be a guy that is going to, I guess the best way to put it, he doesn't seem like a guy that's, if it's not working, he's not going to keep on doing it. He's going to figure out a way what does and doesn't work. And
Right.
that's what he's been kind of doing in the preseason.
Yeah, and that's the only thing I mentioned about when he was talking about the sidearm and he kept getting it tipped and intercepted. He's going to have to find another way
Yeah.
to make sure that he can make that play work instead of going the other way. That doesn't mean you change your sidearm. Maybe you just change the angle that you go to sidearm. Maybe you go over the top. Maybe, and I just don't think he's going to be thinking out there and processing, because if you can't do anything naturally as an athlete and you become robotic, then you become a problem. You will then make mistakes.
And that's why I'm not worried about that yet, but I am anxious to see how that progresses over a full season, because obviously we're going to be talking about, continuity, the whole season progression, because the Easton wrote an article with a couple of quotes from Dave Ziegler, the assistant general manager, and his view of from the outside looking in of what he's hearing about Brian Callahan. And part of that is going to be Cam Ward's progression. So we'll talk more about that when we come back. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone.
Blaine Bishop here. Look, we talk all day about training, recovery, staying in shape, but no one wants to talk about what happens when things start to slip in the bedroom. The truth is, ED is more common than you think. And it's nothing to be embarrassed about, gentlemen. And at Edge Peptide Therapy, they're helping men get real, long-term solutions that don't just treat symptoms, they fix the problem. The therapies are built around your body using science-backed peptides and hormone optimizing to restore blood flow, increase sensitivity, and boost performance. And even if things are working, they can help take your sex life to the next level. So check them out at edgepeptide.com. Yes, that's edgepeptide.com. Or you can just give them a call today at 615-724-1878. That's 724-1878.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Door. 615-737-1045 is the number.
Boom.
Titans front office hints at Brian Callahan's future job security in the wake of ESPN report of firing considerations in January. It's basically a big, long article from Easton Freeze. It's really good, and we're going to get to it because I got some stuff about quarterbacks, first-year quarterbacks, and all that kind of stuff. But first, I want to go to Noah, who has a question about the quarterback position. Noah, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, guys. How y'all doing?
Doing good. How are you?
Actually, you going to be a quarterback guru?
No, I just had a question about, because I was younger when Marcus was coming up. So I just wonder, how good was Marcus during these joint practices and, just throughout training camp? Because we know he was great the first game and then wasn't as great. So I just want to know you guys' take on that.
Oh, I
think
mean,
so.
One training camp, he didn't throw any interceptions.
That was his rookie year. His
was
rookie
it?
year, he didn't
Yeah.
throw one
Yeah, I remember
interception
that.
the entire camp. Now, I don't know if there were joint practices or anything. I can't recall.
I do not remember.
But that throughout that
then he
entire...
played well. It was Tampa Bay. At
Yeah.
Tampa Bay, the first game, he looked
He
fantastic.
went crazy. He went crazy.
Wasn't the first preseason game rough, though, against the Falcons?
Oh, I don't know. You'd
I don't
have to look
remember.
that up. For me to remember a preseason game back that far, that would be a miracle at this point in my life. I can remember certain
won't
things,
even
maybe not
address
that. And I was at the Tampa Bay game, so I can remember that one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You there?
I was there. It was,
man, that was great.
Sun was blazing, beating down on you. It was bad, but it was a good game. It was a fun game. All right. So we were talking about that article that Easton Freeze wrote. It was the Falcons game, and it was a bad game.
Falcons 2015, Marcus was 7 of 8 for 94 yards, but an interception and a fumble in 2 drives.
Oh, he had 2 turnovers.
Yeah, there you go. So Easton is talking about this because we talked about this yesterday about, trying to figure out what it would take for Brian Callahan to either keep his job, what that looks like, and all that kind of stuff. And it was a really good discussion yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Really good article by Easton.
Yeah.
And you had talked about, how many coaches survived the number 1 overall pick and all that kind of stuff. So I did a little bit of research before we get to Easton's article because it was pretty interesting. Because I did all first-round quarterbacks since 2015,
So was my number right? Because I asked Jackson to look it up. Nobody, I just skimmed right over what I said.
It's just that it's a lot harder to figure out that number than you think. I didn't do a percentage, but there were 33 quarterbacks drafted in the first round since 2015. Now, one of those is Paxton Lynch, where Gary Kubiak retired after 2 winning seasons. So he retired right after the Paxton Lynch season. So I've removed him from the list. So we have 14 quarterbacks of all drafted in the first round that their head coach was fired either during their rookie year or right after their rookie year. It goes Caleb Williams and Matt Eberflus, Drake May, Gerard Mayo, Bryce Young, Frank Reich, Trevor Lawrence, Urban Meyer, Justin Fields, Matt Nagy, Justin Herbert, Anthony Lynn, and so forth and so forth. I mean, Marcus, like we just talked about, and Ken Wisenhunt, Jameis Winston, and Lovie Smith. And most of these guys had losing records when they were fired overall, even before the rookie quarterback got there. And they had them when they got fired. The only exception really is Matt Nagy was the only one to have a winning record and it wasn't with Justin Fields, but he was 34-31 as a head coach, went 6-11 with Justin Fields. So he actually had a pretty good record, and they ended up firing him. I guess a good history, I guess I should say, before they fired him after 1 season with Justin Fields. What was interesting that there's 18 quarterbacks where the head coach initially survived the draft or is still employed. Because you get your Dan Quinns, your Raheem Morrises, and everything. A few names that popped up that I thought was interesting was Zach Wilson and Robert Saleh got 4 years together as the New York Jets. Well, I guess Zach Wilson left last year, but they got 3 years, and Robert was able to survive that up until the 4th year, obviously. Deshaun Watson and Bill O'Brien got 4 years. Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray got 4 years together. So they got some of these guys got the entirety of the rookie contract outside the 5th-year option. All of this to say, because that's a lot, it's like, what is Brian Callahan? Is he more Zach Taylor, Or is he more, Adam Gase or Nathaniel Hackett, two offensive minds that were head coaches that floundered and all that kind of stuff? Like, where is he? And we still don't know the answer to that, really. But Easton's article kind of paints a picture that, okay, maybe the Titans view him right now, because that's the key word. This is how they feel right now, as maybe more Zach Taylor than Adam Gase and Nathaniel Hackett. What are your thoughts after hearing all that?
I have no idea. I'd be love to hear from you. I really don't. I don't know anything.
Yeah.
Like, at this point, I mean, how do you know? I mean, for them to say positive stuff, that's what you have to say at this point in time. You kept him after, getting hired. So now you want to filter through and say how we rebuild and then how he coaches up Cam Ward and see how the team progresses. Do they progress? Does he progress as a head coach in critical situations and making critical decisions? That's kind of, I was just trying to figure out what's the base principle, because I think it's all over the place on how do you decide to keep a head coach.
It's hard for us as fans and media to really decide.
It's just, if you're not winning, ultimately, sometimes it just goes back to that. Only thing we're reading the article there with Easton is about the patience of the new hires and GMs and Brinkers and, where they came from, Berganzi, that they came from patient organizations. Now, I could always say, oh, yeah, they came from patient organizations, but they weren't the head honcho. In this situation, it's totally different. You are making a decision. You are now feeling the pressure and the heat. You're the one.
That's a good point.
It's totally different than when you're sitting in the second and third chair. So, and then you feel the pressure from ownership. So
to put it into words, Ron Wolf and Brett Veach feeling pressure is much different, or could be much different, than Chad Brinker and Mike Berganzi and how they handle pressure, because the ownerships are different. You can come from a patient organization, but you come to an impatient owner, which has been proven time and time again. Yeah. So you can say that, hey, they came from patient organizations, but the ownership structure is a lot different, right? You can afford to be, if you're Ron Wolf or, Andy, coming from an organization where there's Andy Reid and the Clark Hunts of the world, like, you come from those organizations where there's also good head coaches. So you can kind of afford to be patient, right? You can afford to be patient when you got a Mike McCarthy who won a Super Bowl, Mike Holmgren. You can afford to be patient when you have an Andy Reid.
And that's why you can't say that, Brian Callahan is going to be on those tracks.
Right.
Those guys are already proven when they got there. So it was a little bit different. So I think the record and the jury's still out. I mean, that's to me, but you have to say positive thing because you move forward with them. And I think it's just a wait and see approach after this season. I really believe that. And I'd be interested to see whatever direction they decide to go, keep or stay. And let's say the Titans win 7 games, and I think everybody would be excited. They would say, hey, we need to keep moving forward. Doesn't mean other changes won't happen, but as far as the head coach, that means Cam Ward probably played pretty well, at least enough to win some of those games, and I'm sure he'll be a major part of that.
And it's also how you lose them, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a paragraph right here from Easton. This is his analysis. A lot of coaches get fired very early because it's evident they don't know how to scheme up a modern football team. They can't adjust as the league ebbs and flows, or that they can't handle situational football decisions, or that their players simply don't respect them. I don't believe that's what the decision makers for this team are worried about with Callahan. He checked these boxes in his first year, and I'd have to disagree. I'd have to disagree that they can't handle that. That Brian Callahan proved that he can handle situational football decisions. Because there's many times on this show where I've questioned his fourth down decision making, where I question what he did at the goal line in certain situations. I question how he handled Will Levis. I don't know if he has checked that box that he can handle situational football decisions. Now, he can articulate how he came to that conclusion, but how often was it the wrong conclusion? That's how I look at it.
Yeah, I would say from a big, broad view, you were much more detailed, but I would say this. The team never looked like they could get offense, defense, and the special teams to ever do well or solid on the same game. Like there was always something letting them down. And to me, that hence leads to coaching. Just getting penalties untimely. The game management.
Yeah, because penalties is situational, right?
Yeah.
That's a very broad term, situational.
So I'm going to say this, though. Vrabel in his first year had those same issues.
Yeah.
All what people want to remember is the end Vrabel. Well, the first year it was somewhat similar. So I would say going into the second season now with his quarterback, I think it's all going to be based off of just the quarterback, really. Yeah, I think those other things eventually will get there. But I was more concerned with he had never been a play caller, and then now you're going to be the play caller and the head coach, so you kind of have to make those decisions where your mind is thinking about the next play and how to set up the next play instead of, how do we game manage this game, letting other people do it. So that's not as easy as people think. And I really thought that was a big deal. A lot of people just wrote it off. I was like, hey, man, what is he doing for practice? I remember I asked Coach Mack, what is he doing for practice? Is he playing video games? Like to call plays? Like, or is he how is he assimilating play calling? Is he watching film and then calling plays? Until you're sitting there and you're calling the plays yourself, it's easy to sit in the back and say, oh, man, he should have called this. He should have called that. Well, when you start calling, it's not that easy. So I just, man. And so I just think he had to go through an adjustment period, and hopefully he's ready to take on both of those duties and a much better role, especially with a quarterback that he likes.
We're going to dive into something that you just brought up that it brings up another question I have for you about the offensive coordinator and the head coach duties. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Store. 615-737-1045 is the number. We've been talking this article where Eason has talked to Dave Ziegler and a few others and talking about Callahan's job security, what he has to do. I heard Eason on Ramon and Will this morning, or as Will and Kevin Dyson was filling in for Ramon, but on Ramon and Will this morning, and he said you almost got to look at it like the Brian Callahan progression thing, or the offensive progression or the team progression, is more about talking about climate than it is talking about temperature. And I don't know if that makes sense to you, but what he's talking about is like the sum of the parts more than just the individual parts themselves. But what I found interesting from our conversation just before we went to break was that we were talking about the offensive coordinator, first-year offensive coordinator, first-year play caller, and de facto offensive coordinator, if you will, and head coach, first-year head coach. And it says here in this article, the areas for growth in Callahan's second year are mostly, not all, but mostly, capital H, capital C, head coaching things. Management, delegation, versatility. So when we are judging what Brian Callahan and this growth is, doesn't play calling have to be a part of that? And if play calling is failing, it says right here, delegation. Doesn't he need to delegate those duties elsewhere if he sees that his head coaching CEO type thing is falling to the wayside because he's maybe focused on too many areas right now?
I think it's at the end of the day, we can go down as, running a corporate company.
Yeah.
And if you're not having success, you're not winning. That's ultimately all that matters in the NFL. So that's why I said I wonder what they're going to do, because I don't know if you were expecting to be a playoff team. I'm sure they're not. But if that happens, great. But 6-7 wins would probably say, okay, we're accomplishing some things. We're moving forward. And if he doesn't get there, is that the end all be all? Winning and getting to least respectability, is all it's going to take. That's what I was trying to get to yesterday. Like, we could talk about the development of Cam Ward, and Cam Ward could do well, but you still lose. At the end of the day, and if he's going to throw some picks and he's going to look bad, I mean, really, I'd rather sit here and discuss about what do you think, how many yards he's going to throw for and how many touchdowns to interception ratio he'd have. But trying to guess what the organization is going to determine how Bill Callahan is going to be back. I mean, Brian Callahan is going to be back. I have no idea.
Because you can't just have continuity for continuity's sake, right? Like, I mean, you have to see all the things. You have to see this team trending in the right direction. And what I mean is that they're competitive. There's not as many blowouts. The penalties go down. I mean, it's a long checklist of things that you have to see game by game every week, either improving or having already improved upon and not declining. Like if you even come out the first game, right, and you don't have any offensive penalties, and you maybe do that for 4 weeks, but then you're trending downward as the season goes on and you're getting more and more and more penalties. Like, that kind of thing. It's not just about how you start, it's about how you finish.
Well, yeah, that shows you don't have a well-coached team when you keep getting these penalties, especially false starts. But I'm going to just look at the team in general. Is the offensive line better than last year? Check mark, yes. Is the quarterback better? I would say already, yes. You got to assume that he's going to, if he stays healthy, that he's going to continue to progress. It's not going to mean it's going to go straight up. I mean, it's going to be wavy, but it's going to be eventually going up. So I really have confidence that it'll at least be a good starting point. So are the receivers outside of Ridley complimentary? Are they enough?
Are they in their spots at the right time?
Yeah, so, are they continuing getting confidence and improving week by week? All right. So then you go to the defensive side.
Yeah. then you go to the defensive side.
Crickets. I mean, Cody Barton and Schumann. I'm excited about who wins it.
Yeah.
I saw a play. I don't know, man. What's going on, man?
Not to go off on
Bonnie Hooker's a good player. I mean, Steve, please stay healthy. Please don't get suspended.
Right.
I mean, No, I mean, Timmy, just come out the gate and just be something that we want you to be. Where
Tavondre Sweat. Please get healthy from your tonsillitis and be an impact player.
Hey, man, and he's been out now for a while.
Apparently, this is how a tonsillitis thing goes. I've never had one, but
I had my tonsils taken out, and I'm not talking about the period of time.
But he's been out for a while.
But he's been out for a while, and for a guy in the trenches, that's always to me an issue. Let's say for conditioning.
Yep.
So I don't know what they're doing on the side. He can still run. Your tonsils after so long because you can't really eat. So he may lose weight. To be honest, I don't know what the framework of what he had done, but that's
eat a lot of gallons of ice cream.
Well, I only ate popsicles and stuff at that time, but
I got both of mine, so
it's and then you got to rev that back up. So it's so I'm sure they're trying to make sure that they get him to where he needs to be as far as his win, and
because
Big Jeff. So we got Big Jeff. That's kinda,
do you have Big Jeff by the trade deadline? You never know how this team may view that whole situation. Things can change on a dime. Like, it's all great and good right now that they believe all this stuff that they're saying. And it's all great and good that maybe they're hoping this is how it all turns out, obviously.
Right.
But it's actions change, words change, situations change as the year goes on. And I just hear a lot of people, Blaine, keep harping back to, and I'm guilty of this just as much as anybody. I've been less than what I was maybe over the last year, but talk about the Packers situation and the Chiefs situation. You brought it up in the last segment. I just think it's such a point that resonates, is like, those organizations could afford to be patient. Those organizations had Mike Holmgren, who came in and went 9-7 as from 1992 to 1994. First 3 seasons as the Green Bay Packers coach went 9-7, and they had their quarterback. So not only did they have their quarterback, they were 9-7.
But they were debating if we could get over the hump.
Right.
Can we get into the playoffs and do something? I mean, that's a whole different conversation.
And they went 9-7 after a year they went 4-12. You got to remember, Ron Wolf's first year there as GM of the Green Bay Packers in 1991, they went 4-12. The Packers then were a laughingstock. Then they got the quarterback right and the head coach right, and they immediately went 9-7.
That's what could happen with the Titans.
That's what could happen with the Titans. I'm not ruling it out, but we got to see it. But the other thing is, then you go to Kansas City. Well, again, Kansas City could kind of afford to do it because guess what? They got Andy Reid, who had like maybe 2 or 3 losing seasons, maybe, as Philadelphia Eagles head coach, who has yet to have a losing season with Kansas City.
Watch this. Where did you think Andy Reid came from?
And then he came from the Holmgren tree, right?
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
Because he was offensive line coach for the Packers, if I'm not mistaken.
The Packers, again.
Yeah. Right. And what you got, and again, no, I guess maybe a little disrespect intended for Zach Taylor, but the Zach Taylor coaching tree is a lot different than the Mike Holmgren.
What is his tree? I don't know.
Well, he came from he was one of the McVay boys.
Oh, okay.
I love McVay, but those boys haven't really panned out more often than not.
They're not him, huh?
But let's look at it. Zach Taylor is not regarded as one of the best head coaches in the league, and I would be.
He took him to a Super Bowl.
Took him to a Super Bowl, but I think everybody feels like it's Joe Burrow. And maybe that's not fair to Zach Taylor.
Right.
But we're talking about a guy who his first year went 2-14. Next year they drafted Joe Burrow. Tennessee Titans went in his first year with 3-14.
Yeah.
And
then they draft Cam.
And they draft
Cam Wren.
And
Jackson.
now
Keep reminding me.
Yeah. And now Joe Burrow was 2-7-1, if I'm not mistaken, his rookie year. As a quarterback,
right,
and they went 4-11
one.
Mm-hmm. So they didn't really progress, and they kept Zach Taylor, and they went to the Super Bowl, and then they had a 12-4 season afterwards, 9-8 the last 2 seasons. But everybody has kind of said, Zach Taylor's kind of on the hot seat. Like every year, Zach Taylor's on the hot seat. So if you really want an organization to maybe compare to Brian Callahan's job, it's the Cincinnati Bengals Zach Taylor situation. I just don't know if you have an owner.
That's painful. I don't
know if you have an owner that's patient like Mike Brown. See, that's the thing, is that we saw it with, Marvin Lewis for the longest time.
Oh, yeah, 8-8.
And all that kind of stuff. And they stayed loyal, and they stay loyal to their coaches and stuff. I have not seen that here for the Tennessee Titans. So I'm just saying, again, all I want to say is that the Packers and the Eagles, they can try and be in the Packers and the Eagles, and I don't mind them the Packers and the Chiefs. I don't mind them striving for that, to be that franchise, but you have a long way to go before you are even going to be in the realm of the patience that those franchises have shown and the success that came with that patience. A long ways to go, and I don't think that's necessarily easily replicable in such a short amount of time that it may require for Brian Callahan to keep his job.
It's going to be touch and go. What do you think Jackson's going to be the base principle if Callahan's back?
The development of Cam.
There's a number. If you had to pick one thing.
Ooh, that's the big question. What's the one thing you can tangibly look at?
And no answer is wrong. I mean, nobody, I don't. Only Amy knows that answer.
Yeah, it's tough to gauge. Like, you have to be able to look at this season and see a point forward. But what the tangible thing you have to look for would have to be improvement. Like, there was no regression. It was all progression.
Yeah.
Which sounds like coach speak.
Yeah, it does. I mean, that's pretty much all this is, right? I mean, everything that they say is coach speak. And, here's Dave Ziegler had to say about the role stability plays in a successful organization. Continuity with your personnel department, your coaching staff, and the continuity of the coaching staff and the players. When you look at most of the successful organizations, there's a level of that. So I think it's really important. You have to understand on the personnel side what each cook has to cook with. How good of a meal can they cook with what they have? So I think you have to have expectations on what you're looking for and what the growth needs to be. But when you look at the teams that have had long-term success, there's a lot of continuity with the coaching staff. And so that's the ideal goal. The ideal goal, I think, is a very key word in all that. And so we'll measure that by how these guys grow and how they improve. And there's a level of expectation, I think, that needs to be appropriate based on I think there's a typo here, on what they have in their room too. So that in what they have in their room too, listen to this, a level of expectation, I think, that needs to be appropriate based on what they have in their room too. Talking about the players. And we talked about yesterday Denard Wilson and the defense, and have they given him enough? And quite frankly, I don't even know if Dean Pease can get enough out of this.
He was great out of that. He's
good out of that, but I don't even know if he could. Like, this is
that was a good right there.
Yeah, but I kind of look at it, maybe if you had a Rex Ryan, he's just one of the defensive coordinators that popped in my head. But if you a Jim Schwartz here, maybe you could get something where you have me feeling good about this and about the personnel too. But it sounds like to me, based on this, they recognize they're being very honest with their assessment of what they have personnel-wise, and that plays into the expectations of these coaches. But again, is that a crutch or is that a reasonable reason? I know, right? This is all coach speak, generally. This is all team speak. Because at the end of the day, there's only one person's mind that matters, and that's Amy Adams Strunk. And I know that Cam Ward's in her ear and talking about stability. I know Cam Ward wants to have stability because he hasn't had a lot of it throughout his college career. But at the end of the day, do you make decisions based on what your players want and your players say? There's been a lot of organizations that have done that, and it has backfired more often than not. So I just, at the end of the day, all this is well, nice and good and sounds great. But when the crap starts hitting the fan, your real actions, your real person really comes out. And if you're feeling the pressure, if you're Brinker or Bergonzi feeling the pressure from Amy Adams Strunk or whoever else may be putting that pressure on you, you may not be as patient.
Yeah, I think it's just going to count on one thing. It's just the wins and losses, how that looks.
Yeah.
How that
It's not
looks.
necessarily the number of wins and losses. It's more of how they look.
Yeah, and then naturally you got to throw Cam in there to a certain extent. But, man,
Yeah.
if they don't look much improved as far as the game management and getting penalties and, the units not playing all as one, I think that's going to be tough. I think special teams is going to be better. Hopefully these kickers get it together. But I
didn't
think
even
as
get
far
to
as the
ask.
teams-
Mel is a big special teams guy. I wish I would have got around to asking
is he?
him. Yeah. Jackson, what you got?
How much is it the protection of Cam Ward so he can develop? Because we saw that with Ken Wisenhunt in 2015 when Marcus was getting killed back there. That was a major thing that led to his dismissal in season. So how much is it, if Cam Ward's protected and able to develop for a full 17 games because he is healthy and protected, does that buy them another year?
No. I think if the offensive line stinks, I don't know if that buys Brian Callahan another year because I don't know if Brian Callahan's going to be willing to do the hard thing to fire his dad. I mean,
I'm going to say this. I think those are two different situations.
Yeah.
The Titans have spent numerous draft picks and money with their offensive line. They better be freaking good, and they better protect the quarterback. We talking about last season. No, they didn't have those kind of resources, and you had young players. So now they're at where they're at today. Man, I didn't even look like he's getting touched hardly. Now, I know that's preseason. It's not going to be like that in the regular season, but I don't think protection is going to be the determining factor of anything about if he keeps his job. If they don't do their job, then somebody made some bad decisions.
Yeah, because really that would probably go to Borgonzi and Brinker.
Yes,
because Brinker has been a part of Skoronski's draft, J.C. Latham's draft. And then Borgonzi and Brinker have assembled Lloyd Cushenberry and Kevin Zeitler and Dan Moore.
They put so much resource and money there. The offensive line should be the strength of this team.
It should be the best
based
positional
on what
unit.
the resources they've used, money and draft capital. It is a no-brainer.
It should be the best positional unit by far, as long as there's not like 5 different injuries or something like that,
As long as they
obviously.
stay healthy,
But this should be the best positional unit. And if it doesn't look like the best positional unit, I don't think that's a Brian Callahan issue. But it's crap rolls uphill sometimes.
Yeah, you get the blame.
You get the blame whether it's fair or not. But I mean, it is important to Cam Ward's development.
Yeah.
Because he's not Joe Burrow. We got to understand that he's not Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow can overcome bad offensive line play. We don't know if Cam Ward can or not really in the NFL, but I'm not going to be sitting here and saying, oh, he could definitely do what Joe Burrow does with a bad offensive line because I ain't going that far. I know some fans may, but I'm not. When we come back, we're going to go to Tommy. So, Tommy, stay on the line. When we come back, we'll go to him. He wants to talk about Brian Callahan. We'll continue talking about the Tennessee Titans. 615-737-1045 is the number. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop with Zach Lyons right here on 1045 The Zone.
I've been talking about Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance for years because they're the leading experts in sports medicine and performance, the team physician for the NFL, college and high school athletics across Tennessee. And TOA provides sports medicine coverage to more high school and college sports teams than any orthopedic group in the state of Tennessee. They have 29 locations throughout the state and over 100 physicians throughout Middle and East Tennessee to take care of all your musculoskeletal needs. And TOA has 11 urgent care locations with walk-in availability 7 days a week. They offer direct access to sports medicine and performance, physical therapy and nutrition, personalized rehabilitation plans to enhance mobility, reduce pain, and improve overall physical functions for patients recovering from injuries or surgeries. And TOA also offers sports performance training, a specialized program designed to enhance athletic performance and provide tailored training solutions for athletes at all levels. So please check out their services at TOA.com. Yes, that's right, TOA.com.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Door. 615-737-1045 is the number. And we're going to go to Tommy, who wants to talk about Brian Callahan. Tommy, thanks for waiting. You're on with Blaine and Zach.
Thank y'all. Here's what my concern is, regardless of what happens this year. No quality person that wants to be an NFL coach would want a gentleman's agreement that you're going to at least give me 3 years to get this program on the right track. And if they fire Brian Callahan after Miss Amy is starting to get the reputation that she's just a spur of the moment, and what quality coaches are going to think about that before they decide in the future to take the head coaching job for the Tennessee Titans? I think the fact that they know they've got a quality quarterback might make some of them say, well, I'm going to take a chance because of Cam. But I think we'd be missing out on a lot of quality coaches in the future if Callahan gets fired after 2 years. You know, they're not getting a chance to do what they were hired to do. If I remember, I might be wrong, but I think Jimmy Johnson I don't think he won a game his first year as the Cowboys head coach. So
I think he was.
I'm not
14
saying that they shouldn't fire him. I'm just saying the reputation of getting the next coach might be hampered by the things she's done. Thank you. I'll hang up and listen.
Thanks. I think that's a really interesting take that I've seen people echo in the chat, but nobody takes a job expecting that they're going to get fired. And there's only 32 head coaching positions in the NFL, and if you're one of 32 head coaches, that means a lot, regardless of the instability of the organization. Now, if they're choosing among many suitors, that's a different discussion. But maybe if this is the only job for a head coach that maybe you're interviewing, or maybe you're one of 2 or 3 jobs open and they have less attractive quarterback situations, I don't know how much that plays into it, because, again, you're taking a job thinking you're going to be able to turn things around.
Yeah, 1 of 32 guaranteed contract. I think it would only hurt like the elite coaches.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, guys who have other options.
Yeah.
But I think that can play into it a little bit if they have a reputation already in the league.
The Jimmy Johnson.
Do you think they'll have a regret? I mean, the guy here said that if they lose to Vrabel.
Listen, I ain't putting anything past Amy Armstrong. Yeah, I think if you shut the door on this idea that they couldn't fire someone because of Mike Vrabel comes in and beats that butt, and I don't think he's going to, but I do think that could be a possibility. It's the NFL, that everybody's job's just safe and everybody's on easy street.
Yeah,
let me say this.
Peyton said this.
Brian Callahan ain't sleeping that night if they lose. Like, he's going to be nervous for that phone call.
Well, he shouldn't be sleeping all during the week.
That's true. Jimmy Johnson went 1-15.
1-50, I thought he was.
And then he went 7-9 his second year, so he improved by 6 wins. So by the logic of, well, you gave Jimmy Johnson time, why not give Brian Callahan time? Then he needs to win 9 games this year.
When did he do the trade?
Ooh, I'm not sure on that. I have to look that up.
And then that's how he got all those pieces.
Yeah, I'll have to look on that one. Let's go to Terrell in Spring Hill, who wants to talk about Brian Callahan. Terrell, you're on Blaine and Zach.
Hey, Brian Hitman. I was named Hitman before you was. I'm older than you was.
Cool, sweet.
But here's the thing. I think you have to look at it from a coach's perspective. I've been a head coach. I've been a head coach on a high school level, whatever. I've been a coach and everything. And one thing you have to understand that I think people need to understand is, are we going to be able to be in a position to win games? How do you put us in a position to win games? If you look at last year, there was a number of times we jumped out at 17 points in the first half. In the second half, we were null and void. If we are to see that, if things change, because that's the one thing I have to see is, are we in a position to win games? Can he put us in a position to win games? Then we can look at the players and say, okay, we need this type of different player and maybe these things will change. And I tell you, those coaches you named, at the great Jim Schwartz and everything, those great coaches who figure out a way to use what they have. That's another way to figure. If these are good coaches, they'll figure out what to use what they have, and you will see that we'll be in a position to win a lot of games.
There you go. I mean, I do think that goes to our point of how do they look in their games. The winning record is the record is the record, but how do they look in those games? The Herschel Walker trade, by the way, came in the middle of the 1989 season, which is the middle of the 1-15 season. Mm-hmm. So there you go.
When they got a lot of pieces.
They got a lot of pieces. Tennessee Titans don't have a lot of pieces to trade, and a lot of draft picks to obtain via trade. So I do think, but to his point, it really does come down to week by week. Because what did we preach last year? Consistency. Now, we know that because of how the NFL is, there's going to be ebbs and flows in every game in a season. But more often than not, are you being consistent in key categories like turnover? Consistent in a good way, I guess I should say, because the Tennessee Titans were consistent in a bad way in turnovers and penalties. But, are you consistently competitive? Are you consistently disciplined out on the field? Because that's the measure of the coach, right? Sure, players have to execute the plays. Players have to make sure not to do dumb crap that hurts the team, as a former head coach of the Tennessee Titans used to say. Obviously. But at the same time, this team, we have to kind of, we can't be sitting here on radio on a Monday or on Titans Talkback or on the pregame show talking about the same stuff we talked about last year. That's kind of if we're saying the same stuff we said last year on these shows, that lets you know there's no progress being made.
Oh, man, if that happens, man.
I can't go through another season like that. This is
it was depressing.
It was so depressing to try to find positive stuff to talk about and not, every show devolve into, can you believe that Will Levis did that? What is going on with this team?
Well, my biggest question with Callahan, for me personally, I want to see if he's a good play caller. Personally, it's just because I would say this over and over again. You reminded me of last year is when Will Levis or Mason Rudolph got in, the offense still was the same. It looked the same. Now, different guy pulling the trigger, somewhat different, but it was still the same offense, and it didn't work.
Right.
And both of them were still turning the ball over, just in different ways. One was just crazy with the ball, and the other one was just throwing it to the other team.
Exactly.
Or fumbling. I'm like, well, dang, this guy's polished. Like, he's a true backup in this league and started a lot of games.
And just remember, you don't have a true backup in this league.
You mean
right now on this team?
Yeah. Oh, right. Is Simeon going to make the team?
I don't know. We'll talk about that coming up. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone. 3HL's up next. And in the meantime.
And in between time.
Peace.
Let's face it, buying a vehicle should be straightforward and stress-free, and that's exactly how Two Rivers Ford has been doing business for decades. This locally owned dealership has a non-commissioned sales team whose only focus is to find you the right vehicle at the right price without the pressure. So you'll actually have a fun car buying experience. Great prices, easy financing, and a non-commissioned sales team. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.